is that we do here, and kind of how we're a little bit of a different third-party logistics organization. So again, thank you so much for even including me in this conversation. So to kick us off, to get started, Axle was founded in 2011 by John Clay and Drew Johnson. They are Knoxville natives, both graduated from the University of Tennessee and stepped into two different logistics roles. One went into the asset side of the business, and the other went into the non-asset side, so third party, which is what we do. And both really saw that there was something missing from their respective roles, just this level of client engagement to the marketplace. So they got together and started Axle Logistics, just the two of them. And as of today, I believe I have 106 employees as of this week, and we're rapidly growing. So we have our headquarters here in Knoxville, and then we have a second location down in Chattanooga. So again, to touch on a little bit what we do is we're a third-party logistics company. So we are a transportation company without any pieces of transportation. What we are really fundamentally is a sales organization, as well as we provide technology. So fundamentally, we have clients all throughout North America that have some kind of shipping needs, whether that is raw materials or finished goods. And then we have, they have product, right, that needs to get from somewhere, point A to point B. What we do is we go out to market. We have about 36,000 carriers on contract with us right now, and we negotiate a rate, learn about their business, and basically partner these two entities together and oversee the process of that freight getting picked up and delivered on time and safely. So in a nutshell, you can think about it a couple of ways. To our carriers, we partner with a lot of really small trucking companies. So for us, I use Amazon kind of as an example. You know, Amazon's a third-party platform, right? They are a platform for a lot of really small organizations to reach a client base that they would have never reached on their own. And that's what we provide for most of the trucking companies that we partner with. Instead of having a sales force and the overhead to go out into the marketplace and sell to the Pepsis of the world, they can come to an organization like Axle or another third party and kind of pick and choose what shipments make sense for their business, and kind of cherry pick them and put together a book of business on their own without that overhead. Conversely, for our clients, having a third party in their arsenal of carrier partners is really advantageous. It allows them to have an infinite, so to speak, pieces of equipment at their fingertips. So the difference is an asset-based provider, right, has a finite amount of trucks. So if, you know, Pepsi works with Alley Trucking and I have 10 trucks and I guarantee them all 10 of those trucks, you know, every Monday, and then Pepsi calls and says, hey, you know, this store is going to be out of product, I need to send out an 11th shipment. Alley Trucking can't help them, right? They could say, oh, maybe I can pick it up on Tuesday or maybe Wednesday, but that's forcing the client to change what their needs are to fit what the transportation can provide. We don't ever want to do that. Axle's vision is to be nimble and flexible and to really change our business model to fit each of our clients individually. So when you know, Pepsi or whomever calls and said, hey, we need that 11 shipment to go out, it's really high, we're able to say, okay, well, we don't have any more trucks from Alley Trucking, but you know, Joshua Trucking is available, so we're going to send one in, and that way their supply chain runs smoothly, there aren't any hiccups, and we're able to adjust the needs to our client. So now here we go. So this is just basically an overview of the modes of service and different pieces of technology that we sell. Again, I know I mentioned that's what we do, and it's a little different selling a service. It's not something tangible. So obviously transportation is first and foremost what we provide. So that's truckloads. So that's your big 18-wheelers that are going down the road that's completely full. Less than truckload, LTL, are, think of more of like your UPS and your FedEx of the world. It's, you know, you're shipping one pallet or several pallets or one piece of something. In those situations, it's a cost savings because your client is only paying for the space it's taking up instead of an entire shipment. Expedite, which is exactly what it sounds like. Those are companies that specialize in getting things faster than normal transit. Intermodal is over the road. So when you see you know, CSX going down the rail line, sometimes it's filled with third party like ours product. Air, so we partner with airlines as well. So not only cargo freight, but your commercial airline. So when, well, pre-COVID, when we were all flying everywhere, when you were sitting on the tarmac and sometimes they were saying, oh, it's going to be just, another 10, 15 minutes. A lot of times they're waiting on providers like us that they actively sell the space underneath your floorboards, right? Because everyone is petrified to have their bags lost, that we all bring carry-ons now. So as another revenue stream, airlines actually sell that space instead of check bags to cargo providers. So we do a little bit of that. And then warehousing. So again, we don't own anything. So we don't own any warehouses, but when a client comes to us and says, hey, we have excess product, or we're moving our distribution center, or something of that, we need to store product somewhere, we go out to whatever market they're in, find warehousing with the right space, negotiate the rate, oversee that contract being put in place, and then we can take it from there. So whether handling inventory management, shipping obviously in and out of that warehouse, or what have you. So that's the crux of what we do. But like I said, we are also a technology company. So we do provide pieces of technology to our clients to help their supply chain run as smooth as possible. So we do have an internal TMS, a transportation management system, that has been built out specific to Axle as well as our growing client base, and what that looks like. Integrated GPS tracking is exactly what it sounds like. So we've partnered with an organization called Trucker Tools that provides us GPS tracking as well as integrated tracking into ELDs, which is a whole nother rabbit hole I'll get into, but to track our trucks while it's in transit, right? When I order something from Amazon, I'm watching even on Prime to make sure that that box, gets to my doorstep right when it says it is. Our clients want to know that too. They're entrusting us with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of cargo. They want to know where that truck is and that it's safely and progressing in the manner that we, promised it would. So we do provide tracking. And risk management is a really big piece of what we do. And it's one of those things that are kind of behind the scenes that people aren't really thinking about or looking at. But this is a big selling point that we handle. So as I mentioned, we utilize 36,000 carriers, right? And that might seem like a large number, but it honestly really isn't. A lot of the larger players have hundreds of thousands of carriers on contract with them. Axle, especially for our size, we're very particular in the carriers that we onboard. We have a strict vetting process, and that's a piece of risk mitigation and management that we sell to our clients. So we have a multi-step process of which carrier partners, so that means primarily trucking companies, that we're going to partner with. And there's a lot of different things, from safety ratings to insurance and behind the scenes work that we really look at to say, hey, since we're not driving the truck ourselves, are we making the best decision of placing this carrier in control of your freight while it's on the road? So that's a big piece of what we do. And then capacity matching. So we have a lot of internal technology that allows us to proactively map out where drivers are picking up and delivering, which allows us to proactively reach out to them and say, hey, we see that you're delivering in Chicago tomorrow. We actually have several shipments coming out of that area, and then proactively offer them those shipments if we're not already partnered with them. So this is a little bit of the technology side of things that we sell to our clients. Any questions so far? So I'm going to kind of shift gears and talk a little bit about Axle. So, we're listed as a logistics company, and as you guys are in your supply chain classes, transportation is a piece of supply chain, and then third-party logistics is like a sliver of that. So, when people think of logistics, they don't necessarily think of sales, but we really are a sales organization, and that translates into every role that we do have within our company. So I think it's just impactful to kind of talk a little bit about how our internal model is a little different from some of the other third-party logistics companies that you might be familiar with, or other logistics companies in general. So the main role that we hire for is that logistics consultant role. And I have 360 listed there because that's what internally we call it. They're 360 reps. So in most companies, not even specific to logistics, you have several different departments, right? You have a sales division, you have account management, business development, customer service. Everyone likes to point at something different, but something where you're customer facing strictly, and then an operations department. Here in this particular role, we encompass all three of those departments into one job function. And I'll explain why we do that. But from a day-to-day standpoint, they oversee everything from lead generating, qualifying leads, cold calling, trying to onboard new business. That's that sales piece of it. The difference is in this particular role, when you onboard a client, you get to retain them and you get paid on them for the lifetime that they work with Axle rather. So like I said, at a different organization and sometimes in a different role, that sales representative would hand it off to an account manager. Here, this consultant retains it. So when that happens, they shift into that account management business development role, right? They're growing that account, understanding the nuances of their shippers, of their vendors, of their end customers. They are building out KPIs and really understanding not only the overall transportation program, but those clients as a whole, and building out those multi-tiered relationships within the organization. So that consultant is still growing that account actively for years to come. And then that third piece is the operations. So if we're doing our job correctly, that client should be tendering us some kind of shipment, some freight to be moving, right? So when that happens, that consultant then goes out to market or within our carrier pool and hand selects carriers that they want to utilize for that shipment or for that specific account. They vet them, they negotiate a rate, and then they contract them onto that shipment and oversee that shipment as it's in transit. So tracking, tracing, providing updates to their client. And that's why we call it 360, because from that very first cold call all the way to delivering news that a shipment has been delivered, that one consultant is handling every single aspect of that book of business. So we do this for a couple of reasons. First off, from an internal perspective, we think it gives our sales representatives the highest level of accountability for every piece of that, sale, because they are, at the end of the day, the person that's going to execute that shipment, execute all of the sales promises that they provided during that discovery and onboarding process. They're the ones that are gonna have to bring that through fruition. So we think it just, again, brings a level of accountability and just a holistic approach to the client experience, because they are the ones that can clearly communicate, right? Within this role, every piece is flowing through their desk. So from a client perspective, when that customer calls and says, hey, Allie, I have, a question about this update or an appointment that was set, anything like that, you're going to be the one who had set that appointment. Like I said, pick that driver. So you can proactively say, Mr. Customer, I spoke with, Matthew this morning. I'm pulling up his GPS tracking right now. He's tracking on time for his 9 o'clock appointment. I set the appointment myself. So as you can see, there's a lot of proactive communication instead of when there are different departments behind the scenes. Sometimes that game of telephone can just naturally happen when you have more people contributing to one effort, right? Other organizations, you might have a single point of contact, but behind the scenes, that account manager needs to call the carrier rep, who calls a dispatcher, who calls a driver, who hopes that they answer, right? Hopes that their tracking is working. There sometimes is a game of telephone. So at Axle, our goal is to really streamline that process and weed out any inefficiencies that are possible. So within this role, that's really important. And then conversely, from the carrier perspective, right, selling a shipment is critical to understanding all of the nuances that go and come into effect at a particular vendor, to be able to communicate, loading or unloading times or different requirements. Being able to, again, proactively have that communication because you're the one who deals directly with that client or with that vendor, again, it weeds out. Now, again, we're all human, so the mistakes happen, details get dropped, but for the most part, you are an expert on that client's book of business, so you can effectively communicate that to your carriers. So we just think, again, it just streamlines the process and allows you as a consultant who works here at Axle to really have a full scope and full control of your book of business from start to finish. It is not a secret, we are for profit. So you have full control over the market competitive rate that you're billing your client, the market competitive rate that you are billing your carrier, and hopefully generating some margin in between, right? That's how we get paid. But again, there's no surprises here. You are in full control of every aspect of that. So it's a unique and very dynamic role. Does anyone have any questions about that before I touch on the other ones briefly?
I have a question about that role.
Sure.
Are the consultants limited to like a specific number of accounts they can manage at one time? Or, I mean, is there a top out point when, hey, this is too much? I mean, it looks like there's a lot of different activities involved in that account management. role, is there a top out point? I mean, is there a point where, hey, this is too much, we've got to take these accounts and roll it over to somebody else? How does that work?
Absolutely. And that's a fantastic question and perfect segue. So absolutely, right? You will get to the point let me back up. The way for this role to be successful is to have a healthy balance of sales and operations, right? Sales generate your new business. Operations allows you to not only generate money, but to continue to grow the existing business that you have. Like you mentioned, at some point, you're going to inevitably be operationally heavy. Your clients are going to be feeding you so much freight that you're just naturally going to be operationally sounded, right? By scheduling appointments, running freight, negotiating, booking trucks. I mean, the list goes on and on. So when that happens, and if you've expressed interest in leadership and management and participate in our leadership development program, you can be promoted to what we call a team lead. And in that situation, you start working with our leadership team to start hiring consultants to work on your team. And when that happens, a small piece of your business you'll hand to someone who works on your team. We do this for a couple of reasons. First off, it allows that new consultant, right, to learn by doing. This is definitely a jump in the deep end to learn how to swim type of job. We provide floaties, but you still have to get in the pool. So it helps them learn faster. And then to your point, it gives that team lead more room on their plate to level back out and to continue to sell, right? Now you're probably thinking, well, that lady just told me that I got paid on that for like the lifetime that they work with Axle. Now you're saying that someone else is running the day-to-day. 100%. So that team lead is still forever involved in that account, right? From business reviews and, well, again, pre-COVID, on-site visits and things of that nature, they will always be involved. But when you become a team lead, you not only get paid we're base salary plus commission, you get paid for your own book of business, but then you start drawing commission off of each consultant underneath you on your team. So again, the role from a leadership standpoint in any capacity, right, is to help develop those underneath you, but it is still in your best interest, obviously, to help grow that account. So then you hand off a piece of your business, right? So I hire Josh, welcome to Team Allie. I hand you a piece of business. Now I have room on my plate. I start selling. I become operationally heavy again. So then I go ahead and hire, right? So then I'm going to hire Matt. So when Matt goes through his training program, I hand him a piece of my business. So you see how it naturally and organically kind of grows. And that's how that top off point is, to kind of bring this full circle to your question. It really just depends. So we have some clients and consultants who have a ton of different customers, right? So it takes them a minute to get to a point where they do feel like they're at that point. And of course we have like internal metrics that get you there. Or we have consultants that land several larger accounts, so their volumes increase that way. It really just depends on how you build out that book of business. Again, Axle doesn't put parameters around you from a sales perspective. So you're not regionalized. A lot of new sales roles, they'll come in and be like, okay, you're in the Southeast region and you can call customers up to this size, up to 50 million or $100 million in revenue, right? Axle doesn't do that. Now, do we want you calling Apple tomorrow on your first day? Absolutely not. But if you do, we're going to put the right people on that phone call or in that boardroom with you. But this really allows you to organically grow, but everyone can reach that tipping point, that like maxed out, like, hey, I am operating and I don't have time to sell at a different rate, purely based on the accounts that you go after.
You see it? Okay. Yeah, that was perfect. But now, hearing you talk, it brings up another question. As far as the open ability to explore the entire United States, Canada, Mexico, wherever, do you see some point where it will move into more of a structured territory? Because obviously, with 100 employees, I'm sure everybody's not out there trying to get business, but as Axle grows, do you see it developing into territorial type positions?
Yeah, that's a great question. Honestly, I don't. So we are growing rapidly, and yes, we definitely do have internal rules, so to speak, about how long you're able to hold on to an account in your name without progress or landing that. And there's all these, which every sales organization has. That way we're not stepping on each other's toes, right? We're not calling the same people. But to put in perspective, right, they're projecting in the next few years for our industry to be a $19 trillion industry. The largest third-party logistics company, C.H. Robinson, which is a $15 billion company where I came from, they control 5% of the market share. So theoretically, no matter how big we get, there's plenty of sand in the sandbox for all of our consultants that, yes, we inevitably will trip up on each other to say, oh, like, shoot, Josh has this in his name, I want to call on, whomever, but there's so many different opportunities out there. And I think that's the beauty of third-party logistics is that, we don't just haul for, just manufacturers or, you take like a water bottle, for example, there's like 5 or 6 different leads just in one product, right? You have the raw materials of the plastic, someone else makes the label, the dye that goes into the label, then putting the bottle together, then they're sending it somewhere to fill the bottle with water, and then last leg of transportation is to get it on the shelf somewhere. So, there's typically anywhere between 3 and 6 legs of transportation in just one product. So when you kind of break it down that way, I don't think we'll ever have to regionalize or put parameters because there's just so much out there for everyone to go after. Anybody else? These are great questions. Awesome. Well, feel free to stop me at any time. Okay, so real briefly, I do want to touch on that we do have other roles within the company, right? So we started out with just the logistics consultant role, and as any growing company experiences, our client base shifted, and there's just inevitably a need for different types of supporting roles. So we do have a couple of different roles that are more segmented than this 360 role that I just talked about. Again, I have 4 employees on the floor I'm on right now. There's 86 of them are up here, and they're all consultants. So that gives you some kind of understanding of kind of where we are. But we do have a national sales executive role. So that is a strict outside sales role. The reality is there are just some sales cycles that take a really long time and a lot of resources. And in that 360 role, it requires the ability to have contractual and transactional freight. And sometimes the, Fortune 100s of the world, it just takes a lot longer. So we do have this dedicated role that handle those larger strategic accounts that function off of contracted high volume freight. And in order to support that, we do have 2 other roles. So we do have a capacity sourcing analyst role, which is just the carrier portion of the business. So for those large, the Pepsis of the world, right, that we just have tons of volume, we have a capacity team that goes out to the marketplace. It's still a sales role, it's just on the carrier side of things, right? They're building relationships with their carrier partners, vetting them, onboarding them to our programs, and then assigning them either to specific shipments, but typically accounts as a whole, right? So they're monitoring and making sure that these dedicated carriers that we have on contract are picking up and delivering on time and safely for these large volume accounts. And then we do have a key account manager role that kind of works between those 2, right? So that sales executive, as they're even continuously selling, right, those larger accounts, we do have a day-to-day point person, and that's that account manager person. So they're monitoring market trends and things like that, the account as a whole, and basically making sure that everything's running smoothly on both ends and looking for opportunities for Axle to ingrain themselves further into the account and grow it. Work. So shifting a little bit into the people that we look for to fill these roles, it's always a question that I get when I speak with colleges and networking groups. It's, I'm in supply chain and, we haven't really touched on third-party logistics. Is that a problem? Or I'm a communications major or something like that. So, it's really important to me that I touch on, within the supply chain school, you guys are going to be, definitely leaps and bounds ahead of understanding different aspects of supply chain, right? From procurement to warehouse management to inventory, all of those things. But within what we do, all of those people are really the decision makers to onboard an organization like us. Your purchasing, head of purchasing or VP of purchasing is going to typically be the person overseeing your inbound logistics, right? So that's going to be someone that we talk to see if we can help move freight. So when it comes to finding candidates to come work for Axle, it's really the intangibles that we focus on. And this is just a brief list that I kind of hammered out to kind of highlight a few things. But, what we look for in an interview, or we're talking with people, are those things that, yes, we can dive in and expand upon, but we're looking for self-starters. We're looking for people who enjoy an entrepreneurial experience, because that's really what you're doing, especially in that logistics consultant role. You're running your own book of business with a ton of autonomy, just really within the framework of Axle, right? It's like owning your own business just without having, to pay overhead, essentially. So, the things that we look for are really the things that you are gaining, especially right now while you're in the classroom, are those communication skills and being detail oriented. As you can tell with the 360 role, if I explained it correctly, it should feel dynamic. It should feel like there are a lot of moving pieces, because there are. And that's the biggest thing that I touch on. I oversee our learning and development, are really paying attention to, the not only the hours of the day, but the minutes of the day. The day really snowballs and you can get away from you because there's so many pieces that are going on. So being able to, empathize and make quick decision-making skills, to make those decisions on the fly and own them. And I can tell you that in transportation, things don't always go as planned, and we're definitely impacted by the economy and weather and all of these things that we really don't have any control over. So being able to communicate with your clients and your carriers about what's happening, being able to have ambition and drive to have a slew of just hard sales calls and still want to pick up the phone to find that next account, are things that we can definitely grow upon, but are, like I said, those intangibles that we really look for from a candidate. So these are just some of those attributes that really stand out to us.
Hey, Allie.
Yeah.
So sorry, back, just one quick question on that previous slide that you had up.
Yeah.
So a couple of skills were interesting. Negotiation skills, number one, and critical thinking skills. And I'm always interested, in speaking with people and what are their definitions of those things, right? And so for negotiation skills, what does that look like? How do you know when you see that? Because that's
Like
something we hear all
the
the time, but I don't know if we recognize what that actually looks like.
Absolutely. And yeah, 100%. And, we don't expect anyone to come in knowing literally anything about this job. I will teach you everything you need to know about Axle, about the industry, about the role. But something like negotiation skills, it's really being able to, even on a fundamental level, being able to have those types of hard conversations, right? To be able to, negotiating is really just communicating what you think is fair, right? And being able to listen and empathize with the person on the other side of the table, or the phone call, or while you're buying a car, or whatever it is. I mean, it can translate so far into even social, right? I spoke with a class not too long ago, and this exact thing came up, and the topic kind of steered towards COVID, right? I'm at home, I'm with my friends and they want to go out, and I had to explain to them why that wasn't a good idea, and really understanding, hey, I'm going to try to explain to you why this is in your best interest, right? Why what I'm saying is fair. But also understanding that not everyone's always going to agree with what you're explaining to them, right? And that's where, that critical thinking, to kind of build off of the other one that you mentioned, comes into place, right? To be able to say, hey, this is the best solution that I can come up with for this particular issue or problem or pain point that I'm experiencing right now. And then I'm going to make a decision based off of that. So when we talk with candidates about some of these things, I'm not thinking that anyone's in their basement brokering out free. That's negotiating that we'll teach you here, but being able to have those tough conversations in your social and whether it's your family or church life or whatever that looks like. These are really transferable skills, or, working in a restaurant, right? I bartended right up until I got my first third-party logistics job, and I tell everybody, it's like waiting tables without the food here. You're constantly trying to explain to people why, the special is the best thing on the menu, or, apologizing for their burger being burnt, even though you weren't the one that cooked it, right? So these are just some things that really do apply regardless of the environment that you're in, that really, like I said, transfer into what we do here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Anybody else? So that is some fun stuff. So company culture is a big topic, and you know, it has become kind of like a buzzword, I think, with recruiters and getting their name out there. And you know, I always like to touch on it, not because it's, you know, the attractive thing to do these days, but I think because it's super important. You all work really hard to get a great education and to get through school, and then you want to get out, and that first job is really indicative, right, of your next steps in life. And for us, company culture is a little bit different than I think how some other companies pitch it. So I can tell you, yes, do we have ping pong tables and basketball hoop? Are there Nerf balls flying across the room? Do we cater luncheon on Fridays? Do we give away trips and all those things? 100%. We are in a tough industry, and we try to excite and gamify what we do as much as possible. That has absolutely nothing to do with our company culture, though, and I think that is why it's so important to me to kind of touch on it when I do have the opportunity to speak with people, because I think it gets lost in translation that when people talk about company culture, it's, you know, that they give stuff away and, you know, it's fun, which is true. It definitely is here. I had to have a couple of people close some of the doors because it's too loud out there. But for us, company culture is really are the people that are sitting on the floor out here, that you can walk in here, and not because I work here, but this is why I came to work here. The energy that is within Axle is completely palpable. And the reason why company culture is so important is that, especially in this particular role that we mainly hire for, you're paid based on your individual work. There is no incentive for you to help out the person next to you, but you would never know that. You're placed within teams, and the way that we're structured, it is completely cohesive and team-based and very collaborative. And you would not know that the people that, and I can tell you right now, I have 4 people that started this week, and they're all shadowing and sitting at different desks and learning. They're given undivided attention by every single consultant that they've sat with. And I think that just speaks volumes that we have really put a lot of focus in creating a culture that generates that entrepreneurial spirit, but within that allows everyone to really want to see the person next to them exceed and do just as well, if not better, than how they're doing. So that is how we define our company culture. We are in the third party space. So I will tell you that, you know, every penny that we generate goes right back into our employees and our technology, which I'll touch on here in a minute. But that allows us the room and the space to kind of let people interact, right? To let them network and to feed off of each other's energy and ideas, which in turn has really allowed us to build out this amazing, rapidly growing organization that really does rely on collective thinking and diverse approaches to sales. So it's been a very unique experience coming here and watching, you know, 100 people try to help each other out, no matter what department they're in, for the betterment of the vision of what we're all trying to accomplish together. So here are just a couple of accolades that we have kind of picked up over the last couple of years. And we actually just won Knox Star again, but I haven't gotten that logo yet. But it's really important to us that, you know, we give back to, you know, to our team, and you know, we do a lot of, you know, I do a lot of small groups and trainings, and we put out surveys, and, you know, it's really important for us to get feedback from our team of, hey, what do you need, right? The best, you know, thing about Axle, especially in our hiring process, is that we hire organically, right? We don't do block hiring. A lot of organizations, you know, you'll see these big onboardings, typically around June and then January when graduations happen, and they'll hire, you know, blocks of people at a time to kind of see who works and who doesn't. Axle doesn't do that, right? We hire organically. When you come in for an interview, you have the opportunity to interview actually with the team leads that are hiring for, you know, their team at that time. And we do that because we know energy and how you mesh with someone is huge. If you're gonna get out of school and go spend 40, 50 hours a week somewhere, we want you to enjoy what you're doing. And if you don't enjoy the environment that you're in, or the people that surround you, I don't care how great you are or whatever the job is, you're never going to be able excel and feel comfortable in that role unless the environment around you allows you to explore it. So like I said, we put a lot of time and effort into company outings and team buildings and, different, like I said, we did, 3 different contests today, and we try to really be collaborative with our team across the floor, across teams, across departments, because it's important for us that everyone, especially because we're growing so quickly, gets a chance to experience and connect and network with people that they wouldn't normally come in contact with. Anyone have any questions about anything or comments? So building off of that, here in Knoxville, we are in the final stages of our brand new corporate headquarters. So I don't know if you've been watching the news, but we've been working on this headquarters for quite some time now. We have purchased a historic building here in downtown Knoxville. It actually used to be an old Ford dealership back in the 20s, and we're revitalizing it and bringing it back to life, and we'll be moving in there in January. So it's very exciting, but the reason why it was important to our owners to do this was exactly that, was to continue that company culture and to continue to create an environment where, as an entrepreneur, you have the creative space to bring your A game at all times, to grow, a place to, bring clients, and just even from a team aspect, to be able to be collaborative and have that space. So I just thought it would be fun to break from me ranting, and you guys could see a couple of the renderings that will be moving in here, like I said, in just a few months. So this is just the downstairs, and again, it was really important to them, as much as we are a sales organization, that we are a technology company. So actually those little black squares on the wall, it's actually like a seamless TV that's going to have like market trends and weather patterns and all of the things. But it'll be, our sales floor will hold about 450 people. So it'll definitely give us some room, at least for a few years at this rate, to fill out. But again, you'll notice here that there are no walls, and there are no walls except for the couple of conference rooms that we have. And that plays right into our culture, right? So from a sales environment, we want you to be able to continue to challenge yourself and to continue to learn and develop from those around you. So if you were to come to either of the locations, but here, you'll see that we're in teams of 5. And there, like I said, are no walls. We actually do have white noise pumped through the ceiling to try to suppress some of the loudness. But we do that for a reason, right? We want you to be able to, like I said, continue to grow, to be able to say, hey, I hear, Benjamin a couple of seats down, and he keeps getting callbacks from his voicemails. Like, let me listen to how he's leaving them. Or, Alan has a similar lane, and he's negotiating and he's booking his carriers way cheaper than I am. Like, I'm going to listen to what he's pricing, right? It really allows that collaborativeness. I'm not sure that our teams love it, but we rotate desks a lot. And that's what you're constantly sitting around different people, different salespeople around you. So you can hear different sales approaches, different rebuttals, not only from a growth standpoint, but also from a leadership standpoint. That allows that continuous mentorship to happen. Again, something that I've never seen until I came here is you will see peers saying, that was a really great call, or hey, like, I'm not sure what they said to you, but I would respond this way, or have you tried to tweak what you just said to say this? We're constantly trying to learn from each other and also help everyone be their best, and having this open type floor plan and rotating desks and being around new teams really allows that energy to continue to happen. If we plugged our consultants in a high cubicle or an office somewhere, we would be expecting them to continue to generate different results by basically performing the same way. If you don't hear and experience things around you, you're going to try your same sales approach, and you might try to tweak it here or there. But if you don't have the opportunity to get feedback on an instant basis, that's really tough to do, right? So this is just our way of allowing that to continue to happen, and also obviously create a fun environment that you can continue to interact with your peers. So a couple of fun things about the new office: there will be a full gym, there is a basketball court, there's an outdoor like grill patio area situation. Again, it's a tough industry to be in. Sales, regardless of what industry you're in, is a tough profession. So we definitely also want to create, that's why we do have like ping pong tables and things here that I mentioned, foosball. We want you to be able to walk away from your desk and go for, well, now a quick run or play around a ping pong or shoot some ball or, take a walk to cool off and come back refreshed. I don't care what craft you're in, what you're selling rather, but with sales, a string or even one really tough call, if you allow that energy and that dynamic to impact the rest of your sales day, it can derail it extremely quickly. So we definitely encourage our team to, get up, walk around, mingle, take a walk, like I said, shoot some hoop, to really be able to recharge. And then when you get back on the phone, you're right back at it. So it's really, it's really important to us that we continue to provide that type of environment that allows that to happen. So I did want to mention this, and I talked to a lot of classes, and it's important for us that we touch on this. And I know, and I preface this, that a lot of companies don't talk about money, and we're not really sure. We're not really sure why. But for us, it's important for me that as you start looking at different companies, or even take Axel out of it, looking at different industries and different roles that you want to step into, especially from a sales perspective, I really encourage everyone to see what that financial future looks like. We all work for a reason, right? If we didn't have to, we probably wouldn't, right? But sales is a challenging profession to be in. And we know how much goes into those sales cycles. So it's really important for us that our teams, but also our candidates understand, and this is, I can show you, I have a recruiting card. We hand these out. This isn't like proprietary. I pulled this out of myself. We want you to know the opportunity that does come with being in a sales role like this. So we're base salary plus commission. It's an uncapped 15% commission. And again, we don't regionalize you. We really give you the opportunity to run in any direction. And like I said, I have some consultants on the floor that have a ton of smaller customers that run the gamut from trash bags to finished goods to, I have one guy who runs porta potties, right, for job sites, right? You can really go after anything you want. I also have some consultants that specialize in, hey, one of the team leads that we have on the floor used to be a groundskeeper for University of Miami. He came here, and all of his top clients are turf and sod companies, right? You go after what you know, or where you have, a connection. So we really don't limit you, but with that, we really want to encourage that financial freedom, right? And that generational wealth that you can really create by coming to an organization like this and knowing that hard work, transportation never shuts off. Not that I'm telling you that you have to work 24/7, but there is an element that this never stops, right? Especially within a pandemic. We've only gotten busier. So the idea is we want to make sure that everyone understands that we want to compensate you for the hard work, for the effort, for the connections and relationships that you're generating, because it's tough, and those sales don't happen overnight. Those relationships don't happen overnight. So that's why we also pay continuously. And I think I mentioned that earlier. Some sales organizations, you'll get paid as a sales rep for a certain amount of time before they kind of fall off your roster. Here, like I said, they stay for the lifetime that they work with Axel. So whatever they're generating the month prior is, what you're compensated for that account. So this is just a little snapshot that kind of gives you 1 through 6 of kind of a benchmark, and then top performers, to just give you an understanding that as you start looking at different organizations, I always encourage students, hey, don't be shy of asking like what that structure might look like. How do promotions happen, right? So at Axel, we don't promote based on tenure, right? So Justin, who popped on right when we got started, he was an ETSU grad, I hired him myself 3 years ago, came in as a logistics consultant straight out of ETSU, built up a book of business, worked really, really hard. Within his first year, got promoted to a team lead, built out a team, and Axel was growing. Our general manager here got promoted to a VP, and because we had so many people, we created 2 general manager roles. And because of Justin's hard work and you've ever get the pleasure to meet him, he is probably the most positive and energetic people that you'll meet. He was promoted to be one of our general managers. So for this office, you know, he's managing 30 something people at 24 years old, right? So I think it's also encouraging to see that, you know, within this organization, you can really take your career in any direction. There is no ceiling. That's why I came here. And it just allows you to kind of carve out whatever path you like within the framework of Axel again. So I just always think this is just something to definitely, you know, not dwell on. You know, money doesn't define everything, but it is definitely a part of what we do. So just think it's always important to kind of throw up there. So that's all I got. If you guys have any questions or anything else I can elaborate on, I am all yours.
What is your typical hiring process, and do you guys do internships or no?
Absolutely, it's a great question. So our typical hiring process is your first question. So we're continuously hiring. So when you apply, we typically do a phone screen, and then we bring you in for an interview. Like I mentioned, you will interview with your hiring manager. So if it's for one of our other departments, so capacity or sales, you interview with them. If it's for the logistics consultant role, you'll get an opportunity to interview with the team leaders that are actively hiring to fill their team. Again, that's why, you know, we start conversations early with students that are graduating, but we always tell them, hey, your final interview is going to be a little bit closer, right? If you're graduating in May, we'll probably bring you in around February, because I definitely want to give you the opportunity to speak to people that I know will be hiring by the time you're coming on board. Again, company culture is a really big deal for us. So I want you to have that opportunity to meet with them. So that's our typical hiring process. From an internship standpoint, yes. So we do a summer internship every summer. We take about 6 interns here in Knoxville. I'll probably take 2 down in Chattanooga. It's the exact same role as our logistics consultant 360 role. And when I say exact same role, I mean exact same role. It is not a simulation. You go through a crash course of our 4-week development program that our typical new hires do. You're placed within a team, and you are doing everything from, like I said, cold calling, negotiating rates with carriers, booking trucks, onboarding carriers. You're placed within a team, so you do get that exposure of account development, and growing accounts, being on different conference calls, all of that nature. We do take interns occasionally, which I know it's a hike for you guys, but during the semester as well, that really, those internships just based on what business needs we have at the time. But the great thing about our internship program is if you do decide to come on board with us post-graduation, anything that you've landed from a customer standpoint while you're an intern is yours once you go full-time.
Allie, to piggyback on that, what is the timeline for applications? I mean, is that kind of ongoing like the full-time jobs? I just want to make sure we don't miss, you know, an opportunity in terms of when, you know, it's the absolute last time you can apply for an internship.
Yep, absolutely. And that's a great question. And I always post out the deadline. So we open up that summer internship application. Typically I think it's like the second week of February. We let all the schools do their spring career fair, which typically is like the first 2 weeks of February. I know a lot of companies open them up now really early. I think it puts a lot of pressure on students that they feel like they have to apply everywhere to get their application in. So we want everyone to have time to speak to as many customers. I'm not a customer. Speak to as many companies as they want to, and then we open it up. So it's usually about 3 weeks we have it open. I always post. The best thing to do is honestly follow us on LinkedIn. I put all of the deadline is closing February, whatever, to apply. And then we'll give you a deadline of when typically we send out a link for you to register for an interview spot. It's just easier because we get a ton of applicants for our summer internship, and then we bring you in for an interview.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So Allie, I have a question, not necessarily related to hiring, but I'm really interested in this pandemic issue, right, and how that has affected really how we're doing everything, and how you're seeing the distribution channels have changed overnight, and how people are buying things and how things are being packaged and consumer behavior and all that.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest changes that you have seen in your role, in the 3PL world, in terms of demand for freight, or what customers are wanting, what clients are wanting? What have some of the biggest changes been?
Well, there's definitely a capacity shift, right? So without getting too granular, right? So capacity, when I say that, I mean trucks on the road, right? So now that there is this increase of household goods, medical supplies, all of these things that have to go to certain places that pay now a premium because they're essential, right? Capacity has shifted. So trucking companies want to haul that stuff, probably for the better good of everyone, but they make more money doing it, right? It's just like when there's a hurricane, disaster relief, right? FEMA sends a bunch of trucks, it pulls capacity, right? Because those are things that have to get there, and typically the budget is a lot larger. So that pulls capacity towards those things. So we have seen less capacity on the road for all the things that are still going, right? Which in turn drives prices up, right? You have more supply than there are trucks on the road to haul these types of things. So we have seen an increase in pricing, which isn't surprising, obviously, for what's going on. That is definitely a unique thing working in the 3PL world, is that as the economy, as these things happen, we are definitely at the eye of it. We see things shifting before, you feel them on, the shelves at Target. But yeah, so pricing has definitely increased. There's less capacity. So, what we have found is, our carrier relationships are everything. And we're fortunate that we do take the time to vet our carriers and make those relationships, because carriers are so in demand right now, and there's so little. There was not enough before the pandemic happened, right? Like the average age of a truck driver is 61 years old. So that gives you any idea of how many truck drivers are on the road right now. So yes, there's definitely been an impact, a huge need for capacity, because when those trucks are off the road and then now everyone's at home spending the money that they're not, spending at the bars on, Amazon or whatever they're ordering, there is now this overflow of supply in the market that I'm sure everyone has ordered something that says, like, due to COVID, this might take an extra 3 to 5 days. That's what's happening. There's just not enough trucks to haul everything that's going on. So, I'm sure you've seen shipping prices and things going up because transportation budgets have been blown based on the pandemic. So I'd say pricing is the biggest thing. And that kind of goes back into effect with clients. So it's not just carrier pricing for carriers, but, we've had clients that come to us, or people that we've, been talking to from a prospect standpoint, that say, hey, my incumbent carrier is really raising rates, right? Or conversely, we're calling customers that didn't have their rates increased. So that tells us, right, that you had really high rates before the pandemic if no one's asking you for more money now. So there's a lot of different pricing conversations that we're having with clients that are looking for consultation, right? I mean, that's why our consultants here have the title that they do, is because we do offer that, right? We'd be happy to, offer comparison pricing so they can understand if they're getting market competitive rates. So I definitely think the demand has impacted us the most, but also understanding and having those strategic conversations of where we fall with some of our new accounts, right? So we've obviously, I'm sure you can assume, have seen an increase of people who need help finding capacity to haul their freight. We also had some clients that, pick up a new product line of making masks or, different packaging goods that they weren't making before. So as we kind of shift into preparing for 2021, we have to understand, are those product lines going to go away in a post-COVID world, right? How will that impact our business after that? So forecasting is a really big piece of what we're doing now in a very uncertain time. So that's really hard. So it's a combination. We've definitely seen an increase. We're definitely heading into the holidays, which also causes more capacity to get off the roads, because just like everybody else, drivers want to be home, and it's bad weather in the Northeast, and things like that happen. but I would definitely say capacity is going to be the number one thing that we've really struggled through, but we've been able to continue to build off of the relationships that we've had.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. So we're about out of time. Does anyone have any last questions for Allie?
You've explained everything very well. That's all I have to say.
Oh, thank you. Well, if you think of anything else, definitely let me know. Like I said, we're always hiring. I can't speak any better about Axel, and not just because I worked here. I will tell you, I came from a different 3PL and thought I wanted to get out of logistics, and went into staffing, and it took me 90 days to cold call logistics companies, and Axel sold me a job. So I've been here ever since. I mean, they're great people to work for. You know, there is something to be said. There is a difference between working for a Fortune, whatever, publicly traded, to a smaller private organization that is growing. You know, there's a lot less red tape. You can make a really big impact. So if you're looking for, not to sound cliche, but more of like a family feel, with the opportunity to really create something that I haven't seen replicated anywhere else, it's definitely an exciting place. You know, we still feel like a startup, even though, you know, I was the 20th employee I'll be here 4 years in November, to kind of see where it's come now, and to watch the consultants that we had that I hired 3 or 4 years ago. It's exciting to see where they are today. So if you're looking for something that is, you know, fast paced, and I will tell you, it's not for everybody. The no walls thing is an adjustment if you like working in a quiet atmosphere, but it's definitely exciting. And I think that our people really, they do a fantastic job. So if you have any questions, feel free. I put my email on there. You're welcome to reach out or call. I'm definitely an open book.
Well, Allie, I just want to say on behalf of ETSU, the College of Business and Technology, as well as the Supply Chain Association, thank you so much for your time. You know, this has been a great presentation. We learned a lot. And it's a great company, having worked for large organizations kind of most of my career. I can tell you that these type of opportunities, which you have at Axel, don't come around a lot, especially to have the freedom to be an entrepreneur within a company like this that's growing like it is, and be a part of that culture. It's a very exciting thing. And the fact that it's right here in Knoxville, right here in East Tennessee, and the headquarters is downtown, which is a cool place too. Mm-hmm. So, but again, I appreciate your time. And if there's anything you ever need of me, feel free to reach out and just let me know. But thank you. And thank you everybody for attending.
Yes, I really appreciate it. And thanks for including me. And if there's anything else or follow-up questions, like I said, or anything I can help with, please reach out.
Thank you, Allie. Good to see you.
You too. Hopefully I can see everyone in person at some point.
Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day.